Let's move to Sweden, a country that has given the world one of the most daring and influential playwrights in European theatre, August Strindberg. His name often appears in exam, so keep it in mind. Strindberg completely reshaped modern drama by blending naturalism, psychological realism, and the early forms of expressionism. What makes him fascinating is how boldly he questioned social power, gender roles, and even the idea that human beings are rational. Because of this, he became a major force behind the rise of modernist and avant-garde theatre across Europe, a point also highlighted in exam. Strindberg's works often deal with emotional conflict and the darker sides of human life. He explores troubled marriages, collapsing families, spiritual confusion, and the way people struggle with their own divided thoughts. Let's look at 4 of his most important plays, all of which help us understand how he rewrote the rules of drama. We begin with The Father, written in 1887, and this title has been noted in exam. The play is a tense domestic tragedy about a military officer and his wife, Laura. They argue over the future of their daughter, but the conflict quickly turns into a psychological war. Laura begins to undermine her husband's sanity by making him doubt whether the child is really his. As the tension grows, Strindberg shows marriage as a harsh struggle for power, shaped by fear, insecurity, and manipulation. With its sharp realism and emotional intensity, The Father stands as one of the key works of naturalist drama. Next comes one of Strindberg's most famous plays, Miss Julie, first performed in 1888, another title regularly seen in exam. Set on a single midsummer night, the play focuses on Julie, a noble woman, and Jean, her father's valet. Their conversation slowly turns into a battle of desire, class struggle, and psychological pressure. Strindberg draws on ideas from Darwin and early psychology to show how heredity and environment shape behavior. Julie's downfall represents the decline of the aristocracy, while Jean's ambition reveals the frustration of the working class. The play's structure, shifting between dance, dialogue, and movement, breaks traditional rules and prepares the way for modern drama. Now let's move to something completely different. A dream play, written between 1901 and 1907, a title asked in exam. This play is like walking straight into someone's mind. It follows Agnes, the daughter of the god Indra, as she comes to earth to understand human suffering. The scenes feel like dreams, time jumps, locations shift, and characters blend into each other. At one point, Agnes encounters the 4 deans who represent different academic disciplines. The whole play acts as a spiritual journey, ending with Agnes awakening and realizing that the entire story was symbolic. The line, "Human beings are to be pitied," captures the play's tone of compassion and sorrow, and this line has been mentioned in exam as well. Finally, we have the Ghost Sonata from 1907, another key work asked in exam. Strindberg called it a chamber play because of its small cast and tight structure. At the center of the story is Hummel, an aging manipulator, and his role is another detail noted in exam. Hummel pulls strings behind the scenes to reveal the colonel's hidden sins during a strange, almost supernatural dinner party. The play mixes Gothic elements like ghosts, pale women, and eerie houses with symbolic and expressionist techniques. By the end, the student A character, partly modeled on Strindberg himself, delivers the message of the entire play that behind polite society there are secrets, guilt, and corruption, and no one escapes accountability. Together, these 4 plays show why Strindberg remains such an important figure in European literature. He was never afraid to explore the fragile borders between reality and imagination, sanity and madness, or truth and illusion. His work continues to inspire modern theatre and reminds us that drama can expose the deepest conflicts within the human spirit. We begin with Selma Lagerlöf, a name every student of European literature should know. She became the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, receiving the award in 1909, and this achievement has been asked in exam. Her writing stood out for its imagination, its warmth, and its deep roots in Swedish folklore. Her most famous book, The Wonderful Adventures of Nils, came out in 1906 and 1907, and that publication period has also appeared in exam. What makes this book special is that it began as a school project. She was asked to write a geography reader for children, but instead of making a dry textbook, she created a magical adventure. The story follows a mischievous boy named Nils who is shrunk to a tiny size and travels across Sweden on the back of a goose. As he flies over mountains, villages, forests, and lakes, young readers learn about their country's landscape, culture, and traditions, all through a playful and enchanting narrative. Lagerlöf's writing often brings together the magical and the real. Her stories explore themes like spiritual growth, kindness, and the healing power of nature and love. She pays attention to people who are usually ignored or misunderstood, showing their struggles with empathy and dignity. One of her other major works, Gösta Berling's Saga, published in 1891, helped establish her reputation for poetic prose and strong psychological insight. Through these works, she became a central figure in Nordic literature, balancing fantasy with realism in a way that continues to inspire readers around the world. Now let's jump forward nearly a century to Stieg Larsson, a writer whose books shook the global crime fiction scene. Larsson was a journalist and an outspoken critic of fascism and corruption. These experiences shaped the themes of his most famous work, the Millennium trilogy, which begins with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, published in 2005. This novel mixes classic crime storytelling with investigative journalism and modern technology. It also dives into serious issues within Swedish society: corruption, misogyny, violence, and the abuse of power. At the center of everything is Lisbeth Salander, a brilliant hacker with a sharp mind, a traumatic past, and a fearless personality. She quickly became one of the most memorable heroines in modern fiction. Larsson did not live long enough to see the success of his books. He died before they were published, but once they appeared, the trilogy became a worldwide sensation. The novels were adapted into films and television series, and they sparked a new wave of interest in Scandinavian crime fiction, a style often referred to as Nordic noir. This genre is known for its cold landscapes, moral complexity, and social criticism, all of which Larsson captured with striking clarity.